mess with the 14-card sideboard on accident?
I mean, I have, submitted a 10-card sideboard before just because I changed some stuff and forgot to add the cards in that I wanted to add. But this is SCG Tour, man. This is an open. This is a big deal.
So far, he hasn't really needed it. He's at 9-2.
Well, maybe he needed it in those 2 losses.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's a good point.
And he's going to need it here.
Yeah, maybe he wants something here as we see Dilks on the play, and he naturally has Kabira Crossroads going to 22.
Only has 3 Tormod's Crypt. Probably could have used 4 Tormod's Crypt,
Yeah, just some graveyard hate spell in this field. That makes sense. Inspiring Vantage for Goblin Guide. Dilks' deck not light on lands. He'll pick up a Gemstone Mine and fall to 20.
If you're Dilks, you got to be like, oh, Kabir Crossroads life gain actually matters this round.
Right.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's weird. That doesn't happen too often.
Gonna put a lot of plant tokens into play. Gain a bunch of 2 lives. Celestial Sanctuary picks up the Crossroads.
Well, not the fastest start from Dilks, though. Didn't float a mana, so he can't play Amulet of Vigor. And he has to move to discard, so he doesn't actually gain that, virtual card that those bounce lands do provide.
Gets to discard Ghost Quarter. That one not a big factor in the burn matchup. Go over to Collins. See what Mullen can produce on the second turn of the game. An attack with Goblin Guide is where he will start. Cavern of Souls picked up for Dilks. Dilks falls to 18.
Hilariously enough, Dilks actually played Eldrazi Tron at the Team Open in the Modern seat recently. And to see him switch back to Amulet Titan after that 1 week where they actually made top 8 is pretty interesting. He must have had a bad go of it. Got carried by Daryl and Edgar.
Those are good shoulders, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Strong shoulders. My favorite type of shoulders. You know how much I hate winning? I love when other people win and carry me to victory.
Getting carried is the perfect team outcome.
Too bad it's never happened to me in my entire life. Scooter.
Suspend Riftbolt post-combat Will Mullen. No other action, though. Dilks thinking about playing Gemstone Mine, perhaps has a Sousa in hand. Goes with Cavern of Souls, don't want it getting countered. Name's Giant. Here's a Sousa. Gemstone Mine is land number 2, 1 still in the tank. It's going to be that Kabira Crossroads, back to 20.
Real quick heads up play there by Dilks. So when you have a Zeus on the battlefield, you can play your 2 lands and your opponent never really has a chance to respond to the Zeusa and kill it, unless you play a land that has a triggered ability like a Kabir Crossroads. So you saw him play the Gemstone Mine first before the Kabir Crossroads. It's very minor, but sometimes it does end up mattering a lot.
End step. Mullen sends a Lightning Bolt upstairs. Dilks to 17, then 14 off of the Rift Bolt.
Well, now if Collins just keeps throwing burn at the face, there's a chance that Dilks actually just gets to go Primeval Titan for a couple bounce lands next turn, bounce Kabir Crossroads, play it again, maybe copy it with Vesuva, and just gain a ton of life that Collins can't really handle.
Goblin Guide attack will pick up a Celestia Sanctuary for Dilks, knocks him to 12. Wooded Foothills is the land for Mullen. Skewer the Critics takes care of a Sousa.
All right, so not a whole lot of shenanigans there, but if Dilks has a natural 6 mana untapped, he can cast Primeval Titan, go and get a Vesuva to copy Kabir Crossroads, and a bounce land to return to hand.
Another Gemstone Mine will be the land. And here's a tap for 6 mana.
You're seeing exactly why the Amulet Titan deck has a pretty reasonable burn matchup, because it has the ability to not only put Kabir Crossroads on the battlefield pretty easily, but copy it, bounce it, do a whole lot of other stuff to it, and each time it comes down or triggers, effectively eliminates 2/3 of a spell from the burn side of things.
Finds Talaria West and Vesuva, copying Kabir Crossroads to 14. And yeah, this is the positioning you're seeing here, the advantage the Titan deck has, and a lot of matchups, a lot of pressure on the Titan deck to try to go for an actual kill, to tread water with interaction. But these Crossroads in this matchup buy him so much time. Similar story with Colony Garden if he produces one of those as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, each one just counts as a blocker for the Goblin Guide attacking or the Mosshair Swiftspear attacking.
It's like Mullen is fetching on end stepped, finds a Sacred Foundry.
Important to note, Collins actually has added 4 copies of Sunbait Cannon to the burn deck, which give it a little bit of flood protection. He has gone up to 20 lands, where most of them did play 19 in the past because of it.
Mullen will draw for turn. Picked up a Searing Blaze. I think Blaze, Helix, and 2 lands is the hand.
Well, he can go land, Searing Blaze, 3 to the Dump, 3 to the Titan, and Helix the Titan to clear it. That'll let him attack for 2 with the Goblin Guide, and make it so that Dilks can't attack with the Titan next turn and get 2 more lands, which will almost certainly be like bouncing and copying Kabir Crossroads once again.
Land will be Arid Mesa, fetches a 17 for a mountain. Looks like he is setting up the play you described. Searing Blaze, Dilks to 11. Lightning Helix, finish off the Titan, Mullen to 20.
Yeah, but after this attack for 2, Collins is on E. He's just got a land in hand, Goblin Guide in play with Dilks at 9. He just picked up a bounce land, so if he has another Azusa, he can go bounce land, Crossroads, you know, play it again, gain 2 more life, and effectively invalidate another Goblin Guide attack.
We'll go back to Dilks. See exactly what he has as a follow-up.
Well, also he has a bounce land, so he could just bounce Talaria West, transmute it, go get Summoner's Pact for Titan. I don't think he has enough mana to do that and cast it this turn, but he's very close.
Right, a little bit shy at this point. Can certainly do it over the course of 2 turns. He does not know the last card for Mullen is just a land. Some combination of 2 cards, Boros Charm plus Burn Spell plus Goblin Guide is lethal next turn.
Yeah, a lot of times you have to think in multiples of 3 for burn, but the occasional Boros Charm just usually throws that math out the window. Unfortunately for Collins, though, he just have a land in hand, so almost impossible for him to win the game next turn. Dilks, on the other hand, doesn't necessarily know that, might make an aggressive play. Just have to wait and see what the rest of his turn yields.
So there was a transmute for Summoner's Pact. And here's a Sousa.
So he's only played 1 land so far. Simic Growth Chamber is the second. Kabir Crossroads will be the third. And he gains 2 more life up to 11. Collins in a bit of trouble now.
And our Boreal Grazer joins the party. Really good check on that Goblin Guide.
Yeah, and he's probably just going to bounce the Kabir Crossroads yet again. And then he can't play it yet this turn, but he can play it next turn. As well as a Primeval Titan. Sorry, go ahead.
The Grazer, a 1-of in the deck. Relatively new addition.
Yeah, but it is quite good against burn. Stops Goblin Guide, chump blocks Swiss Sphere / blocks it for a while. And it just ramps you.
Yeah, this is exactly the kind of matchup you wanted in.
I'll say Boreal Grazer is a lot better in these Titan decks than it would be than it is in the standard decks that it does see play in, because you have a lot more functional land drops with those bounce lands than you do with just your generic lands in standard. Each of those bounce lands equates to roughly 2 land drops, so you're always going to get a mana acceleration off of that Boreal Grazer.
Draw for Mullen was a Lightning Helix. He took down the Asusa with that. Goes to 23, but he's already seen the Summoner's Pact. So likely to see a Titan this turn.
So now he can pack for Titan, cast it, go get Slayer Stronghold and a bounce land, return the Slayer Stronghold to hand. He hasn't played a land for turn just yet. And that allows him to activate Boros Garrison, get 2 more lands, probably going to get, well, I don't know what he gets after that, but I'm sure he knows. He's already done this math 2 turns ago.
And many times over. Not his first time playing against Burn, I'm sure. Slayer Stronghold plus Growth Chamber. He's going to pick those up and make his Titan hasty.
Probably going to go get Talaria West and another bounce land would be my guess. Just because maybe get double bounce land, though. He might just want to go bounce Vesuva, bounce Kabir Crossroads, and then continually gain life over the next couple turns. But I think he's just trying to actually kill Collins.
It's like Talaria West, the first land off the attack trigger. Simic Growth Chamber to join. Picks up Talaria West.
All right, Collins going to take 8 damage here from the Titan plus Slayer Stronghold activation. Simic Growth Chamber plus Gemstone can transmute to Talaria West right now. Looks like that's what's going to be the case.
Yep. Goes ahead and transmutes.
Can go get Injured Explosive if he wants to check the Goblin Guide. Walking Ballista doesn't seem like a bad one, but he might just want another Primeval Titan. He can just go get another Summoner's Pact. On upkeep, he's going to have to pay for the first pack, then he can cast the second pack, go get Titan again. Cast it, give a haste attack for 14. Maybe get Sunhome along the way too.
Yeah, Summoner's Pack was the fine. And Mullen doesn't even want to see it. He knows the situation. He's going to pack it in.
Yeah, just drew another land. Nothing really can be done. Dilks not, doing more Kabira Crossroads stuff there really signified that he had the game in the bag, and Collins wants to try again after sideboard with his 14-card sideboard.
So players reaching for their sideboard. Matthew Dilks did bring 15 to the table. The sideboard for him, 3 Path to Exile, 3 Spell Pierce, 2 Force of Vigor, 1 Engineered Explosives, a Grafdigger's Cage, a Tormod's Crypt, a Hornet Queen, a Remunap Excavator, a Reclamation Sage, and a Field of the Dead.
He's going to want to go a bit lower to the ground. I don't think Path to Exile is very good. You can tag Eidolon the Great Revel with it or one of those one-drop creatures, but giving the burn deck extra mana in the early turns is not really where you want to be. Path to Exile is more for stuff like the Mirror, Eldrazi-tron, decks with really important singleton creatures, not decks with a wide mass of creatures. Spell Pierce, on the other hand, might be okay. Stops an early burn spell. Occasionally can protect your Amulet of Vigor from something like Smash the Smithereens, or your Titan from a Path to Exile, or your face from a Deflecting Palm. So I don't mind the Spell Pierces, but they do go dead pretty quickly in the matchup because the burn deck does stay really low to the ground. Outside of that, maybe the explosives to help clean up some one-drops. Maybe the Hornet Queen as a one-off target if Collins goes super wide with Goblin Guides and Monastery Whispers early, but it's really slow. That's about it. He doesn't have a great sideboard here, but he doesn't really need a great sideboard for this particular one.
Yeah, pretty commanding win in game number 1. Sideboard for Mullen. 4 Smash to Smithereens.
4 Tormod's Crypt.
3 on the actual red sheet. Maybe should have a 4th. 3 Path to Exile. 2 Tocatli Honor Guard, and 2 Deflecting Palm.
Now, I think there's a chance that Collins can side up to 11 cards in this matchup. How many he sides is completely up to him. I think you need to be careful about over-sideboarding because the more cards you sideboard in, the higher chances of you kind of fading away as the game goes, drawing one too many Path to Exile when your opponent's at 6 life, for example. Now, Smash the Smithereens is a great answer to Amulet of Vigor, but doesn't have a whole lot of targets. I don't think I would board in all 4, maybe just a couple to slow down Amulet Titan. But if Collins is really scared about the speed of Titan, maybe the Smashes are worthwhile in full 4. Path to Exile is a fine answer to Primeval Titan, can buy you some much-needed time. Tocatli Honor Guard is an interesting one. It does shut down the initial trigger effect from Primeval Titan, so I might want to bring those in. That does sound pretty cool. And then Deflecting Palm, when Dilks does go for a Primeval Titan attack with a Slayer Stronghold, a 2-mana spell that just domes your opponent for 8 is pretty good.
Matthew Dilks playing his trusty Amulet Titan deck, named in part for Primeval Titan, a mythic rare from Magic 2011, which you just might find on sale this week on StarCityGames.com for the Mythic sale. 33% off select Mythic rares. That's through tomorrow. The sale updates every week on Monday at go.StarCityGames.com/sale.
Yeah, and even if you're not a huge fan of the Mythic sale in general, we do have a new sale every Monday, so make sure to check that tomorrow at go.StarCityGames.com/sale to see what we got on the docket.
I have no need for a foil New Phyrexia Karn Liberated, but seeing cards like that makes me want them.
Yeah, I mean, 33% off, that's a steal.
That's just a really nice card.
That's probably below mid. Love me a sale. Collins here, shuffling up for game 2. Got a lot on his mind right now. Down a game. Back against the wall. He does have 2 losses here. A 3rd loss does not knock him out of the tournament necessarily, but it does make things a bit harder as he goes.
Matthew Dilks at 9-1-1 in the event. Really dominant player here on the tour. Last year, 7 opens with 2 top 8s, 8 top 8s all time. Part of that team with Edgar Maguiash and Daryl Ayers, a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I mean, 6 open top 8s this year, one of which was solo, 5 of which were team opens. Doesn't have a win this year. Can't quite close in those team events, but the fact that they've top 8'd 5 out of 6 is impressive stuff. And most of the time, they are playing this Amulet Titan deck in the Modern seat. Their most recent top 8, though, Dilks was in the Modern seat playing Eldrazi-tron, one of the most popular decks here in Day 2 at SCG Columbus.
Guess he had enough of that strategy, though. Played it to a good result. Wasn't feeling it. Back on the Titan deck.
No, it's possible that his individual record with the deck was something like, 10-5, and he's like, well, Old Faithful treats me a little bit better. I'm going to go with that next time, but the Eldrazi-tron deck might have been a metagame call.
Dilks on at least one mulligan as we're going into game number 2.
Yeah, but those bounce lands do reset the mulligans quite well. So if he has a 6er with a Simic Growth Chamber or Celestial Sanctuary, it takes a little bit of the pressure off of him, though his draw will likely be a bit less explosive than normal. It's one of the decks that do get a lot better thanks to the London Mulligan, if you ask me.
Yeah, certainly. Looking for some pretty specific stuff in your opener. That just naturally makes sense. Mullen on the play, Inspiring Vantage. This time it's a Monastery Swiftspear. Dilks to 19.
Attack for 1, but represents a lot more damage as the game goes. Every burn spell equates to a +1, and if you can string together a few burn spells alongside, or more than one burn spell in a turn, that equates to extra damage as well.
Tolaria West was the land for Dilks. Just another attack for 1, Dilks to 18, and here's Tocatli Honor Guard for Mullen.
Tocatli Honor Guard, if we can get that one up on the screen, that'd be nice, but it's more of a standard card that has seen a lot more play in recent memory because it is very good against the likes of Wild Growth Walker and those explore creatures that we see like Jade Light Ranger. But here it does a great job at stifling the development of the Amulet Titan deck and really slowing down their Primeval Titans.
Also shuts off our Boreal Grazer.
Sure does, but there's only one copy of that in Dilks' deck.
We see Celestial Sanctuary and an Amulet for Dilks. He picked up his Tolaria West with the Sanctuary. Deploys Sakura Tribe Scout.
Yeah, has a white floating, unlikely to use the mana unless he has a second Amulet. Maybe has a Path to Exile here, actually. And if he has the path for the Tocatli Honor Guard, it's going to be a way for him to turn on the Primeval Titan.
So he just passes. The mana goes away. Back over to Collins Mullen. Looks like 5 burn spells in hand, among them a Boros Charm.
Yeah, but it looks like all of them actually cost 2, so he's not going to get a ton of value off of the Prowess effect from Monastery Swiftspear. But it's still a lot of damage overall, and if he has enough time at the end of the day to deploy all of those burn spells, that is enough to actually kill Dilks.
Looking at firing off one of these before his attack with both creatures connects. It'll be Lightning Helix on Sakura Tribe Scout. He'll go to 23. 3 damage coming in at Dilks. Dilks to 15.
Now, as a burn player, you never want to be forced to throw a burn spell at a creature. Normally when you do, that means that you're starting to fall a bit behind. If you are a Magic historian, you'll remember like various burn strategies and zoo strategies playing against Affinity. Affinity was always one of those decks that was pretty good against burn because they had a fast clock, and their creatures were so good the burn deck would often have to target them with burn spells. Here, Dilks playing a similar game plan. Dilks doesn't want to give Collins a land. I'm almost positive he has a path in hand and is just refusing to cast it because Collins is kind of stuck on 2 and isn't really going explosive here.
And he doesn't have mana for a Titan just yet anyway, so giving up that mana could be a factor in the game. He just used Ancient Stories to find Colony Garden. Mullen's attacking with the Honor Guard and the Swiftspear again. The plant token is just going to jump in front of the Swiftspear. So 1 point across, Dilks to 14, and Mullen passes. Another Ancient Stirrings as we head back over to Dilks.
Yeah, another copy of Amulet of Vigor would allow a bounce land to generate enough mana to cast a Primeval Titan this turn, but finds another Celestial Sanctuary. See where he goes from here.
hand shaping up a little bit for Mullen. Still has a few 2-point burn spells, but now has a lightning bolt and a lava spike. Land for Dilks will be Vesuva, copying Colony Garden, makes a plant, and step Mullen will Boros Charm Dilks to 10. Mullen draws for turn. It's a second Monastery Swift Spear. It's a pretty significant draw.
Yeah, he can go Swift Spear, has Bolt at the ready, can deal a lot more combat damage, and then once the board gets really gummed up with a Primeval Titan, maybe he has enough burn in hand to just go face for the win.
Cast the Swift Spear, pre-combat, cast the Lava Spike, Dilks to 7, attack with all the creatures. Plant jumps in front of 1 Swift Spear, and now looks like Dilks is going to go for that Path to Exile, uses it on the Honor Guard.
Yeah, this is real smart sequencing by Dilks. He's going to take 2 damage from the Swift Spear and go to 5, but it's going to unlock the 2 lands being grabbed from a Primeval Titan on the next turn. He has a Selesnya Sanctuary in hand. You have to imagine he's going to play a bounce land, make 6 mana, cast Titan, and definitely go get Kabir Crossroads. But let's see if he can do anything else in the meanwhile.
So with the Primeval Titan, he can find his Kabira Crossroad, as you mentioned, in game 2. Though he already has his Vesuva on the table. So without, I suppose, yeah, he needs to make a land to make the Titan. And then without a way to play extra lands, he can only get the Kabira active once this turn. 7 life might not be enough.
Yeah, I mean, Collins does have a bunch of burn in hand. I know he has multiple copies of Lightning Helix and a Lightning Bolt. But if Collins doesn't have another Boros Charm, it might be enough to save the day.
So here's Summoner's Pact for Dilks. He had another bounce land. Here's Primeval Titan. Go and find 2 lands. Slayer's Stronghold, Boros Garrison.
Yeah, it's always a nice one to get first because that lets you attack with a Primeval Titan with Vigilance and get 2 more lands.
Haste up the Titan. It picks up the Slayer's Stronghold with the Boros Garrison.
So Colin's going to take 8 damage here, down to 15. Dilk's going to probably go get Kabir Crossroads, send him up to 7. And then, I don't know other than that, maybe bounce land to bring back the Colony Garden. Looks like he gets a Talaria West. Okay.
Talaria West, Kabira Crossroads. He'll go to 7.
He needs another Path to Exile or something here. Otherwise, Bolt plus Lightning Helix and the attack of the 2 Swift Spears is going to be enough to win game 2 here for Collins Mullen.
Mullen to 15 off the attack. Dilks will pass back, so he has white mana up. Theoretically could have that Path to Exile.
They don't know whose deck is whose.
Players playing the same sleeves, looks like.
That's pretty funny.
Good thing they checked. It looks like they were actually backwards.
And for my draw step, my burn deck draws Amulet of Vigor.
This one doesn't deal any damage. Draw step for Mullen, another Lightning Helix.
If you're Mullen, you got to go for it.
And I like this. He's attacking. So he goes for Helix before damage. I kind of wanted him to see getting 1 damage in for sure, and then post-combat doing this.
It doesn't really matter. You're going to lose if the Swift Spear gets hit with a removal spell anyway.
Well, there's an argument for killing the Titan if it's not lethal.
That's fair. Okay, good point, good point.
But he does take it down. The match now tied. Players go into game number 3.
But what if he cycles Renewed Faith? And he goes to 3.
That'd be a heck of a sideboard technology for the weekend. Collins Mullen playing Burn this weekend. Player that one of the early adopters of humans in Modern. That's where he did get his open win. Last year showed up for 14 events, got 3 top 8s with 8 top 8s lifetime and 2 invitational top 8s.
Yeah, just a great player. Really young still at only 24 years of age. I know that during the last run of the Players' Championship, I would see him on the regular down in Durham, Raleigh area, North Carolina for those regional events and Super IQs and things of that nature. He was always grinding, and he was always doing pretty well, too.
Fan of rock climbing and bouldering.
Not a fan of razors. Not a fan.
Well, those are sharp.
I lack my wit.
I have heard that bouldering is a pretty meditative activity.
Oh, honestly, it looks like he got over his fears.
Yeah.
Fear of the razor. He's clean,
as we age
mostly clean shaven
and mature, we grow. We face our fears. We accept more responsibility.
Sorry, what were you saying about bouldering? That it is physically intense?
I was saying it was a nice meditative activity. It clears your mind.
Yes, you versus rock, or in most cases, fake rubber wall with stumps coming out of it.
Yes.
I do not want people to take that the wrong way. I know bouldering is taxing. It is
very physically taxing.
Absolutely.
Personally, I have some issues with heights. These activities are not my favorite.
That's fair. If you go to a bouldering gym, though, you'll see they have a lot of harnesses and things like that to keep you relatively safe. But
see, they make you safer, but they make me worry more. Why you got all those harnesses if this is so safe?
Well, if you didn't have the harnesses, it's not very safe.
I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm saying I have a stupid person monkey brain, and I can't get my head around it.
Both players here drawing their openings for game number 3. Dilks going to be on the play. Let's see if he can cobble together a win here against this burn deck. The benefit of the burn deck in general is that it is, above all else, it is consistent. Does the same thing every match. Plays a creature, hopefully on the first few turns, and then goes burn spell, burn spell, burn spell, burn spell, you're dead. Now it's your job as the opponent to do something to stop it or to win the game before that happens. Dilks was able to do that in game 1, stopping it via Kabir Crossroads. In game 2, though, Colin's scraping by, getting that last point of damage in before Dilks could untap and attack with the Primeval Titan and really gain too much life to get out of harm's way.
See, an unfortunate mulligan for Mullen. I believe he was looking at a totally serviceable hand, but the mana base was 2 mountains, and he had at least 1 white spell he couldn't cast.
Eee. Now, these decks are playing 2 to 3 basic mountains in them usually. Collins has leaned towards 3. Perhaps maybe go back down to 2, especially if you're going to play, 12 white cards in your main deck? Now, you do have those fetch lands to go get it, but I have to imagine the 3rd mountain is not overly useful.
I kind of like the direction of the 3rd mountain. It's balancing the addition of the Sunbaked Canyons, the fact that his mana base is generally more painful.
Sure.
I'm not sure what the exact mix is, but this does make some sense to me anyway.
Oh, sure. No, that does make sense. Now, they do usually have the 3rd Sacred Foundry, but here he does only have 2. And that is, of course, because of those Sunbaked Canyons giving him more white sources. Combine that with Inspiring Vantage, and you have a mana base that occasionally deals you a lot of damage and occasionally doesn't. You know, it's very back and forth on it.
Mm-hmm. I believe Mullen going to 5 now. And with Dilks on the play, that can be just a disaster for the burn deck.
Yeah, not only on the play, but kept 7 on the play, so you know his hand's pretty good.
Right.
And it wasn't a thinker either. It was a snap. I'm good. Collins immediately mulligans. But with the London Mulligan, he does get to look at 7 cards here, choose the 2 worst ones, put them on bottom. So if he has a hand that's like 4 lands, 3 spells, gets to put 2 lands back. If he has 2 lands, 5 spells, puts the 2 worst burn spells back.
Doesn't look thrilled about the 5.
Now, I can't really get a great look at it because we're pretty high up here. It's very small. But looks like he is going to keep. Going to put those 2 on the bottom. We're going to be off to the races here for game number 3.
Spot it's a Cotley Honor Guard in the holdings.
Yeah, I think I see Honor Guard, Goblin Guide, Rift Bolt, 2 lands, which is a pretty decent hand. Putting back looks like Lightning Bolt and another spell, maybe a Searing Blaze or something, but he's going to change gears here. So Deflecting Palm, maybe that was one of the ones he was thought about putting on the bottom, but on 5 cards, you know, that does potentially represent 6 to 8 damage that he can prevent and deal to Dilks.
Right, he has locked in his 5. Dilks will be on the play, and he has the turn 1 amulet off of Forest.
That's good news here for Dilks for sure.
Sunbaked Canyon, Swift Spear for Mullen, both players to 19.
Yo, I actually think Mullins might have done one of the most aggressive things I've seen in a while. I think he actually put a 2nd land on the bottom, knowing that if he drew a 3rd land, he would very likely lose. keeping an extra spell in his wake. But Ancient Stirrings for Dilks misses?
Speaking of putting cards on the bottom.
How is that possible?
He had 5 looks.
5 looks!
Tolaria West is a second land. Not clear that Dilks has a bounce land yet.
Oh, but no second land for Mullins. He's got a Goblin Guide, though, to go with that Swift Spear. He's going to chunk in for 3, but he gives Dilks a look at another land.
Reveals Amulet of Vigor. Connects for 3, Dilks to 16. Mullen to 18 off the Canyon.
Now, if you're a fan of Dilks, you're going to really hope here that Ancient Stirrings wasn't a key component for Dilks keeping this hand, because if he doesn't have another land here, he's going to be in rough shape, and that is the body language of a man who's in some dire straits.
Here's Vesuva.
He copies the Forest.
Engineered Explosives on 1.
Yeah, that's going to clean up the creatures, but it's going to also blow up his Amulet of Vigor, but he does have a backup in hand.
Yeah, it takes care of the first amulet. Does have that backup, like you said. Mullen now draws the second land. Question for Mullen if he wants to attack with the Goblin Guide or not. Kind of interesting. Very likely that Dilks is going to sacrifice the explosives this turn either way.
Yeah, I think attacking with just Swift Spear is fine. But if you never attack with the Goblin Guide, there's like almost no reason for Dilks to blow the explosives. And if he draws a bounce land, he gets to go second amulet, bounce land, make enough mana to cast Titan. And I think that is something pretty scary. And I think I'd rather force the pop of the explosives by attacking with a Goblin Guide. You know, it's not like he gets an extra look, right? Like it's either a land or it's not. And if he draws it for the turn, that's effectively the same thing as giving it to him with a Goblin Guide, unless it's like a bad land, and then he peels a bounce land afterwards.
Mullen lands on attacking with just the Swift Sphere. Dilks to 15. Post-combat, we see Arid Mesa for Mullen, fetches to 17. I imagine he'll be deploying that Tocatli Honor Guard.
Yeah, Tocatli Honor Guard here, going to come down for Mullins, and Dilks has a choice. Do you pop or do you wait?
Canyon puts Mullen to 16. And yep, we see the Engineered Explosives go off.
Yeah, so because of that, Dilks actually got in an extra, Collins actually got in an extra point of damage and potentially didn't give Dilks a free look at a land.
I did like that attack quite a bit on Mullen's side. Double amulet for Dilks, so that makes a lot of sense.
Well,
but no land.
No land for sure, and the Tocatli Honor Guard potentially shutting down a trigger from a Primeval Titan should it enter the battlefield in any time soon.
Honor Guard knocks Dilks to 14. Arid Mace will be land number 3 for Mullen, so at some point he can now safely use that Sunbaked Canyon to find a card. He's been hanging on to a Deflecting Palm since his opener. Not looking, it almost feels like a mulligan to 4 at this point.
Perhaps, but you know, it could be the card that ends up winning him the game in a few turns because it deals exactly 6 damage for 1 card, you know. And in that scenario, it becomes an unmold. Like he basically remold back to 6.
Mullen will fetch up a Sacred Foundry to 13. And smash the Smithereens on 1 amulet.
Now that means if Dilks draws a bounce land, he doesn't necessarily get enough mana to cast Primeval Titan. And for a deck that plays this many lands, we see Matt Dilks in this situation a lot, where he just doesn't have enough raw mana to cast a Primeval Titan, even with Amulet of Vigor. Decks that have ways to apply pressure, take away the time. You know, Dilks misses on Ancient Stirrings here, there, and now he's just in a bad way. He's still at 11 life, only facing down 1 power, though. Collins has a little bit of work left to do still.
Dilks has a 4th land. Now it's Gemstone Mine, but 4 mana does not do a lot for him. And step Mullen will point a Lightning Bolt upstairs. Falls to 12 to do it. Dilks to 8. Here's an attack with the Honor Guard. Dilks to 7. Mullen passes. A stop in the upkeep. Another smash to Smithereens. Dilks to 4. No amulets anymore. Taps his 4 mana, Asusa, Sakura, Tribe Scout, Ghost. So now he can block the Honor Guard anyway, but 4 life is not a lot.
Yeah, he basically was trying to hold out for as long as he could to not...
Boros Charm off the top. None of that's going to play anymore. Collins Mullen on that mulligan to 5. A little bit help from Dilks missing on that Ancient